Call this meeting to order of the Osceola Township Planning Commission, April 3rd, 2023. Everybody could please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'd like to welcome our guests to the meeting. I'm glad to see we have audience here that can see firsthand what we're doing. Welcome. Moving on to item 5 is approval of the minutes. We have 2 of them. We'll take them one at a time.
Need a roll call?
Oh yeah, let's do a roll call first. Make sure we're all here.
Ms. McKenzie?
Here.
Mr. Tajer?
Here.
Ms. Beckner? Here. Mr. Schultz?
Yes.
Mr. Palmer?
Here.
Ms. Hopcroft? Here. Mr. Linderman?
Here. All right then, moving on to the item 5, the planning commission minutes. We have 2 of them to approve. Number 1 is the minutes from March 6th, 2023 that were in the packet. If everybody had a chance to look at them. Is there any concerns or comments on the minutes from March 6th, 2023? Hearing none, can I get a motion to approve the minutes?
I make a motion to approve the minutes from March 6th, 2023 as presented.
Second, by Linderman. Hearing no discussion, can I get a roll call, please?
Mr. Schultz?
Yes.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes.
Ms. Beckner?
Yes.
Ms. McKenzie?
Yes.
Mr. Tajer?
Yes.
Ms. Hopcroft?
Yes.
Mr. Linderman?
Yes, minutes approved. Item 2, the meeting minutes from March 16th, 2023. Those were also in the packet. If everybody had a chance to look at them. If there are no corrections to those, can I get a motion to approve them as presented?
Motion to approve the minutes for March 16th, 2023.
Support.
We have a motion by Ms. McKenzie, supported by Mr. Schultz, to approve the minutes as presented. Roll call, please.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes.
Mr. Schultz?
Yes.
Ms. McKenzie?
Yes.
Mr. Tajer?
Yes.
Ms. Hopcroft?
Yes.
Ms. Beckner?
Yes.
Mr. Linderman?
Yes. Minutes approved. Moving on to item 6, the agenda. Do we have any additions, corrections to the agenda as presented? Hearing none, can I get a motion to approve the agenda as submitted?
So moved.
Support.
Motion by Mr. Palmer, support by Ms. Hopcroft to approve the agenda as presented. Roll call, please.
Ms. Beckner?
Yes.
Mr. Schultz?
Yes.
Mr. Tajer?
Yes.
Ms. Hopcroft?
Yes.
Ms. McKenzie?
Yes.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes.
Mr. Linderman?
Yes. Agenda approved. Item 7, public comment. Public comment can be on either an agenda item or a non-agenda item. You will have 4 minutes for your comment. Please direct it to the board. Sir.
Okay, hi, Brian Haley, Oscoda. Thanks for allowing me to speak. I do want to talk about, I wrote these down last night. Today I was out in the land clearing, so I don't wear a watch anymore, so you can get cleaned up. But I want to talk about the NMMN RTF grant program. And for my study and research, it's the finest parks development grant program in America. I had a good meeting with Miss Klein a few months back. I think she'll recall, and my very first question to Miss Klein was to agree with me on that. and she did, and she can speak to that as she chooses. And that made me feel good because I knew she was doing her research, at least starting it. And that's very important in all of this. I believe it's now time for a reset in our thought process, analysis, prior decisions concerning Fertall Field and the DNR Trust Fund. And when we talk about these grant programs, the MNRTF is a standalone. It started when I was in high school. In government class, we learned about it with Mr. Qualman, who was a good teacher. I actually got good grades in that class. But now I've renewed it since the peer. I started studying more. Now over the past 2 years, because of major changes, I've again been studying. So it is now time for that research. But it starts, so I'm calling on this commission because you're tasked now with the 5-year parks plan. So this is very important. And I think that's a new procedure, but fine. This is the way it is. And we can work together. I'm calling on this commission right here, the EIC, and the Township Board to gather the proper documented information. Now, this information has always been readily available on the website itself. This critically vital information is also, I just did it last night, is also on my personal timeline. My name's Brian Haley. So the top 4 are concerning this. So it's very easy for all of us to read through there. And you can also talk to the DNR at any time you want. They're very welcoming on that. I'm going to be attending the next EIC Township Board meetings, and again, we're going to keep having to talk about this. Because we need to all get on the same page, and we're not. It all begins with research. It's been a rough few years. Well, that happens in life. It does. We're all getting a little bit older now. We understand these things. The great news is we can correct, and I'm going to say it, our grave errors in past judgments and decisions. Now is the time for all of us to do our proper homework. I'm asking for roughly, I would say it would take 8 hours to read through all of it. You can break that up at any time. That's what I do. My eyes get tired. I'm asking for roughly 8 hours of research. And am I asking for too much? I mean, is that more than a lot, really? It's not. It's not. If a guy like me can do it, I know all of you can do it. You're, all right. I'm at the point in my life where I don't mind doing the research, but actually I feel it should be coming to us. Not the other way around, but I'm willing to dig right in because I care so much. I care about the town. If you want economic growth, it's through Fertall. It hits on all your walkability talk. I believe in walkability scoring. It will help out the new hotel. It certainly will. It'll help out all of downtown. Now, I have a plan on this, but it's going to need all of our input, the community's input, and we can do that through SurveyMonkey. We can do this. It's so easy now to do these things for us to get on the same page, and we're not. There's a lot at stake here. There really is. And we have not thought through these things properly. And it's going to take a commitment from all of us. I find it fun. I find it fascinating what the finest grant program in America offers to all Michiganders. But it's up to us. They're not salespeople. They're great people, highly educated. And they're into economics. They are into economics. When I do mock score-ups, what I've looked at, I have 12 items that I know, preface it, pretty much know what the people want on Fertall. And I'm not going to, 4 minutes? Okay, fine. Because this is just the beginning. And we'll have these type of conversations in the future. If I leave early, please, I have equipment out. All right, so understand. But I would like to hang around for a little while anyway. And I brought Miss Klein into it. I don't know if you want to ask Tammy that question, because I did mention her name, and if I leave early, that didn't work out well when we, I won't mention any names.
Well, thank you for your comments, and thank you for the information provided.
Okay, good.
Mr. Chairman,
you would like, yes.
Okay. Mr. Haley, you asked us to do research in 8 hours. Could you be more specific? Are you asking us to research the NMRTF program or?
Yes, I have 4 pieces. It'll make it very easy. I believe in Facebook works great. The only reason I got on Facebook, thanks for the question, is because I don't know how to put it. We weren't getting the proper knowledge out there. So if you go to my timeline, which would be very easy, you're going to get 90% of what you need to know.
Let me just stop you for a sec. I didn't mean to re-engage the comment period, but I just wasn't clear on what you were asking us to do. So specifically, you would like the members of this commission to do our own study of the NMRTF program?
And the other 3 pieces that are there are right from the DNR themselves. So it's not my commentary. It's from the DNR Trust Fund Grant Program and the Trust Fund Board Policies and Procedures.
Okay, thank
And
you
when
so
we
much
put
for
it all
that.
together, and you know what? I'll email all of this. There's no problem there. Okay? Thanks.
Anybody else in the public for a comment? Seeing no interest, we will close public comment and move on to item 8, which is old business. Old business is just pretty much a recap of what we've worked on and a status update of what we've done, where it's at in the process. Are there any questions on any of the 2022 cases that are outstanding? Seeing none, we will move on to item 2 under old business, which is the Parks and Rec plan discussion. I asked Mr. Willett to put this on the agenda for today. In the last probably 2 months, I've been reviewing the master plan and the Parks and Rec plan. Both of these items which we were tasked with as a board. And in reading the Parks and Rec plan on page 16, if you want to pull it up, I'm going to read it real quick if you want to grab it. It's on page 16 of the plan, not 16 in your packet. This is what it looks like. It says,
Probably about 8-4.
oh, it says Parks and Recreation Services fall under the guidance of the Planning Commission and the Building and Grounds Department. In reading that statement and knowing that the Planning Commission did create this document last year in year before I came on, so 2020, I believe is when it was created and approved. In reading that, my question to the board is, what obligations, or do we have any obligations for this plan? In reading through the plan, as our guest brought up, the MNRTF, a lot of our parks and recs received money through that grant system in the past. And in reading that park plan and reading that grant proposal, there had to be applications put in prior to April 1st for the year. And to my knowledge, I know we as a board haven't even looked at that. So my question to the board is, I see what it says here, and by all means, I'm not trying to create more work for us, but as we go forward, who's obligated to review this plan and bring projects forward? It says that we are, but I wasn't here when it was created, so that's why I wanted on the board, and maybe a board member that was here when it was created can maybe fill in some gaps.
One thing it says, the sentence right above that, is the Board of Trustees has the final approval of both plans. Okay, and I do know that there is we have a Parks and Recreation Director, and I don't see him mentioned in this plan, but there was a committee that was commissioned by the Board of Trustees that was the Parks and Rec Director and a committee that was in charge of implementation of the goals and objectives. So I don't know if that committee is still formed and in process and meeting. I don't know.
Well, that's the question I have also is, in researching this park plan and going through the previous, minutes from previous meetings, I can't find where a commission was ever created for the Parks and Rec. I know, Mr. Al Appices is the director of the Parks and Rec. However, I don't know if there's a committee as far as comprised of various components, the EIC, the planning, zoning.
Previously, the committee is actually the ones that wrote the Parks and Recreation Master Plan. This is the first time the Planning Commission was involved in that. So previously, it was the committee that did that. Ann Richards held that committee for a number of years. The last plan was written by Ann Richards in chairing that committee, so.
And, I spoke with Mr. Palmer earlier this week, during his, office hours. And another idea I had, or looking back, is we have a lot of help in this community, the Downtown Beautification Committee, and a lot of people who work on sprucing up our town. My thought was to engage them and see if we can work on the beach park or any of the other parks in our system. But here again, I could not find a committee that's in charge of this area. So I can't speak on behalf of this committee to charge a committee, but I can ask for thoughts from this committee. Should we get involved in this? Can we get involved in this? I don't know.
Maybe we should ask our superintendent of her knowledge of it.
I was on that committee with Alex Cetus and Lorna Gansey when she was the zoning and planning director. So there was a lot of work being done, but then you had a changing of the guard, you know, a lot of things happened. So, and I know Al would be very upset if he was not involved as the Parks and Rec director. So, and the sentence after says township employees and officials are the sounding board for community recreation needs. So I would think that with Alex Cetus and maybe a couple members maybe a member from the DDA, maybe one from the EIC, and maybe one from the planning commission. But Al needs to be involved.
Right. Well, and that's what I acknowledged in the beginning is, you know, he has the title, but as far as the committee, which you just enlightened us, at least enlightened me, on there was a committee. Can we bring it back? Do we wanna bring it back, and how do we bring it back? That'll be the questions I have going forward. Or should we bring it back?
Who formed the committee? Was it the Board of Trustees?
I believe so.
I think in the past, there was a subcommittee of the Board of Trustees, and their primary focus was to work on the Parks and Rec plan. Once that plan was done, that plan was, you know, put on the shelf, and then 5 years later, the committee would get back together and work on revising the plan. That's a kind of my general synopsis of.
Yeah, but that went to the director, the community development director's position at that time.
Yes. But it was formed by the Board of Trustees, not the Planning Commission.
Right.
So do we need permission from the board to continue it, or since it's already been established, we can work together on that?
I think that was formed by resolution, so I think it's all, you have to work by them until you write a new resolution to cancel that one out.
But we could make recommendations to the township board in terms of, amending or creating a new resolution. If I, may I, Mr. Chairman?
Sure.
I'd like to, thank you for bringing that to us, because that's been it's a common complaint. We have a lot of plans and then they go on the shelf and they don't get activated. We have a master plan action step committee, but it doesn't have, which I'm the chair of, and some of us are on it, and it has potential, but we look at things and we find out about them and we observe deadlines, and what our chairman's pointing to is that there's an actual grant deadline, or there are actual grant deadlines that we should be working toward, and we have to reverse engineer backwards to be able to have plenty of ramp up time to create those grants, and we need, who's gonna write the grants? We can't just dump everything on our superintendent. There needs to be a mechanism or people or a committee or a process, or that piece really needs to be filled in, because a number of us on this commission have seen grants go by like that and we didn't get in there. But, and also we do apply for it. Many, the township does, but we're, let's say, if this is helpful or not, but I'd be very willing to serve on as a part of that, and perhaps grant writing as a committee. Or I don't know, maybe I'm not the best one to say how the grant writing part could occur, but that's the whole. In our master plan subcommittee, the whole is the reverse engineering and getting it calendared far enough back so we can realistically make a deadline, and then how do we make that deadline? We can't make that by a monthly or bi-monthly committee meeting to generate all of the intensive materials required to make a grant application. I'm not saying it can't be done, but I just wanna move your suggestion further down into actualization.
Can I add to that? I just wanna let everybody know, I think maybe it was January or February when we brought this forward, the first time. And after that, I did sit down with Ms. Klein and we reviewed all of the grants that, they have been applying for her and Rick Freeman, and, there is a grant put in for Penn Ratliff for ADA compliance. So there are grants being applied for, just kind of on the backside of things that we don't see. But I could work with Ms. Klein to find that resolution, find it and see, what members it established, or, you know, if it says one member from here, one from the IC, and then, kind of go forward from there. Just throwing that out there.
Yeah, I would also, like to add that on the subcommittee for the master plan review, the main purpose of these reviews was to make sure that the goals and objectives were being worked on and reported as part of our RC certification. So, that also needs to happen with the Parks and Recreation Plan, that if questions are asked about that, what is happening, we're all confused right now, what grants have been written, where there have been written, they just haven't been reported to this commission. So I think it's an easy process to get updated reports on when these things are done, so that we can put that in our quarterly, synopsis of what is happening. If we are asked, we can say that this is the work that's being done on these goals and objectives. So I think it's more of a duty of reporting what is happening, and right now we don't know what is happening because it's not being reported. So work is being done, we just don't know. And that goes for the township master plan also. Finally, we're getting reporting on what's happening, so that we have an obligation on our annual joint board meeting to respond to that. But I think we also discussed in the past about at least a quarterly reporting to the planning commission of work that's being done on those goals and objectives, and where we are and what's happening. So and including the Parks and Rec plan, I would say that we need to get that reporting documented, so we know what's going on. Gotta solve a lot of issues. We know what's happening.
Any other comments? So I think what I hear is, Ms. Willette, you will try to look for this resolution to see what the committee consisted of, and maybe we can update at our next meeting.
That sounds good. It's enough time. So yeah, I'll be able to report back what I found, and maybe have more of a recommendation at that point, if we, you know, need to proceed with that committee, or, we put Ms. Klein on the agenda quarterly for updates, or, you know, we'll figure that out in May. How does that sound?
Okay. And moving on to item 3, the 2022 Master Plan Action Items and Goals Subcommittee. Ms. Willett and I had discussion, looking back last year, that committee was created, and the term 2022 Master Plan Action Items was the title. So as we move into 2023, the question I have for this board is, should we create a new one because we specified 2022 last year? Does it need, should we?
I would make a motion that we change the title from 2022 Master Plan Action and Goals Subcommittee to Master Plan, just Master Plan Action Items Subcommittee. Take the date off of it.
It seemed to save a lot of work.
Yes. Simple solution.
I just figured I should bring it back for approval since the way the motion was made, and that's why I included the motion in the packet.
So that was why that was added, is that, I didn't wanna get locked down to that number going forward. But Mr. Casier probably has the best answer, just call it the Master Plan Action.
And I made the motion.
I will second that. Motion by Mr. Casier, seconded by Mr. Linderman. If there's no further discussion, may I have a roll call, please?
Ms. McKenzie?
Yes.
Mr. Tajer?
Yes.
Ms. Hopcroft?
Yes.
Ms. Beckner?
Yes.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes.
Mr. Schultz?
Yes.
Mr. Linderman?
Yes, motion passed. Moving on to new business, item 10, I see Mr. Spencer is here. I'd like to announce case 103-2023, site plan review. Tuesday.
Alright.
Ready?
You ready?
I am.
I'm ready. Okay, case number 103-2023 for Jeremy Spencer at 409 Otsego Street has submitted a site plan application for a poultry shed for 8 chickens. Parcel is zoned R1, low density residential, and the chickens would actually go behind that address that I just mentioned, on parcel number 064H6000004800, which is a vacant lot, and he owns the lot next to that as well. That particular lot is 95 feet by 189. And he is proposing to put it 15 feet from the side lot line, 56 feet from the road.
Thank you. Nothing?
No.
Okay. Do you have any questions from the board on this application?
Ms. Willett or Mr. Spencer?
For Mr. Spencer.
Yeah, Mr. Spencer.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Do you intend to have any roosters?
Absolutely not. It's disallowed. They are illegal in the township of Oscoda.
I have one question.
Mr. Tager?
Maybe two. In the ordinance, it states about, containment of the food so that we don't have rodent issues and that. Do you have a plan?
I do.
Plan for that?
The plan is that there's technically two separate things going here. There is the enclosure that I've put on the plan, and that is a gated enclosure with a roof on it to keep the wild poultry out. And there's also inside of that, there's going to be a hutch that contains the birds for them to sleep at night and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
So all of the food and water and all of that will be contained within the cage. Or within
And the storage
the
of the
run.
food?
Storage of the food will be in the garage.
Okay.
It will not be outside.
And the other one question in the ordinance is about, the waste materials. Do you have a plan for getting rid of chicken poop.
I do. We have we're doing a garden and it's expanding again this year. So there will be plenty of opportunity for mulching and disposal of the fecal matter into fertilizer.
That's all I have.
Mr. Palmer, any questions?
Well, those are the same comments I had at our last request for chicken coop. So, is it the rooster, the waste, and the feed? Just from experience, putting the fertilizer on in the winter time, best time to do it.
Excellent.
Otherwise, I looked at the plan here, looks fine to me.
It wasn't really to scale.
I sort of figured that. You get the general idea.
Mr. Pence?
Any issue with neighbors? Any neighbors around you?
But all three of the parcels are surrounded by neighbors.
Yeah.
The closest one that's going to be to that coop is going to be Ryan Ridgway, who is one of our firefighters, and I don't foresee any issues with him. I mean, there's not a fence between the properties, and he does have dogs, and he lets them run around a little bit, and it doesn't bother me. So as long as I keep the chickens off his property and it doesn't start to smell, which I won't enjoy either, then we shouldn't have any problems with any neighbors.
Spitman?
No questions.
Mr. Tajer, any other additional questions?
No.
Mr. Schultz?
Looking at that location, there's an easement through that property.
Correct.
How close is the chicken coop gonna be to the easement?
It's probably going, so the easement, I want to say it's 15 feet from the easement, or from the property line on either side of the property line for the telephone pole easement. It's either 7 or 15. I went with 15, and the coop will be approximately 20 feet away from that. So, and they just came through and did and trimmed all the branches and cut the trees away from the power lines that run through the back of that, the middle of that block, if you will. And so I got to see where their trucks drive through and where they need access to, and all of my future planning will incorporate that easement, so that as not to block any access to any of the telephone poles or the wires they're on.
Mr. Hunt? I have no other questions. Hearing no other questions from the board, can I get a motion to either approve or deny this request?
I move that under section 10.3 standards for approval, that we approve case number 103-2023 as submitted.
Support.
We have a motion from Mr. Tajer, supported by Mr. Schultz, to approve case 103-2023. Can I get a roll call, please?
Mr. Tajer?
Yes.
Ms. Hopcroft?
Yes.
Ms. Beckner?
Yes.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes.
Mr. Schultz?
Yes.
Ms. McKenzie?
Yes.
Mr. Linderman?
Yes. Congratulations on your chicken coop.
I'm ridiculously excited. You have no idea.
Good caught.
Thank you, Mr. Spencer.
Thank you.
Item 11, we do not have any public hearings. Moving on to number 12, report from the Zoning Board of Appeals representative, if any.
We did not have a meeting since our last meeting.
Oh, yes, we, March 20th, we had two variants.
Oh.
Ooh.
I got you back.
Maybe they did.
We did. Just tell them where, it's exciting.
You got my number, didn't you? I was listening to some of it. Yes. Good to see you, Brian.
You want me, okay, so there was a variance, at a residence on F41, kind of, across from Arrow Street, right in that area, maybe close to Bill there. They had a variance request for the height of their garage. They needed 1 foot 8 inches taller to have a 14-foot door to be able to park their motorhome in there. So that was approved. We might actually end up looking at that in the ordinance, just because they're now, making them higher. And the other one was for Party and Food applied for, to put up gas pumps and a canopy. So they own the parcel next to them. It's a little plaza. It had a church and a recording studio. So they wanted to demo that plaza and put the gas pumps and canopy over there. And the variance is accessory structures in the corridor business district F41 zone. Accessory structures are only allowed in the rear yard. So he was asking for it in the side because technically Party and Food fronts two streets, so it's two fronts, two sides, and then he has that lot. So that was approved with him combining, he is gonna combine the lots. I've been working with him on that. And, then he'll have his gas pumps. So, and then we do have a meeting in April for another variance request.
Been busy all of a sudden.
I know.
Well, thank you. Item 12, report from the Township Board Representative.
Well, it's me. Well, I'm happy to report that this morning we had a special board meeting where we approved 6 facade grants to 6 different businesses in the downtown area. So we can look forward in the very near future of seeing our some of our downtown businesses facades spruced up and cleaned up and redone. Kind of happy about that. Things that we've done at the township board level. We approved aerial mapping of Old Orchard Park and Lakewood Shores. This is sort of like aerial surveying. It'll give a maps and information on the area, especially for Old Orchard Park, to locate where all of the facilities are out there. The board at the last meeting passed all the ordinance amendments that the planning commission had sent. This was the second read of that at the township board level, so those will now be in effect. One was for the food truck, the change in the wording in the ZBA, removing one of the questions, removing the chapter 10 of the recreational marijuana that was prohibited. So we removed that, as you recall. And then the code of ordinance for sidewalks. And we also passed a resolution putting Furtaw Field on the non-disposable list. So those are some of the things that we've been doing in the past month. And a lot of things going. I was at my first airport meeting last Friday. And I gotta tell you, I'm very impressed with the new guy out there, Jamie Downs. He's got a lot of energy and a lot of great ideas. And just a couple of things that are coming up this year, yet this summer. If you drive down Arrow Street, you see all the big planes that are parked there, and some of them have engines taken out of them. That's their salvage yard. And they salvage those planes. They take every usable part out of them, and then they salvage the metal. They're gonna move that area all the way across the airport over to what used to be the old alert center for the Air Force, which is over along F41. And that will open up roughly 9 acres of property down there. They're gonna resurface all that, move the dirt, everything. They're gonna put a couple of roads in to get over there, and it will open up about 9 acres of usable land for possibly new hangars, new development, those kinds of things. And there's Car and Driver has requested use of part of their taxiways for speed testing some cars. So they're gonna have that this summer, and I believe we're gonna try and open up the public to come out and watch. They'll have cars going up to 150 miles an hour. So it should be kind of exciting. Where they're moving that salvage over to the old alert area, they will be putting privacy fencing in to block that from the road. But as you drive down 41, you'll still be able to, people will still be able to see those planes, and they're kinda cool, you got 747s parked there, and, they're big planes, they're cool to see, so. Plus it opens up all that property on the airport authority property for more development, so I thought that was pretty cool. That's all I have.
Thank you. Item 13, report on planning commission subcommittees. We have a couple. Who wants to go first?
We did meet, so we're good.
Okay, Ms. Hopcroft, it's up to you.
We did not meet since our last one, no?
But we can soon, we were just waiting to
Yeah,
see.
we can soon, but I have an ask from that committee, Mr. Chairman, will you give us some more people?
How many would you like?
One or two?
Would anybody like to volunteer to serve on that committee?
We could have 3 max, we can't have, we don't
Right,
need 4.
right.
Oh,
Yeah.
Stay
okay, so
out
we
of
can just have one more, is that right?
one
Because we
more
don't-
unless Jeff wants to step away and then let 2 new people come in, it
What
looks
do you
like
want?
that's what Ms. Hopper.
You want fresh blood?
Not necessarily, no.
Do we have any interest to be part of that board?
Not everyone at once.
I felt the pressure.
I'm gonna have to resort to recruitment now, but
Mr. Taggart can make another motion. He got you and I last time we did this. No takers, we'll leave it at that for now.
no, I think Ms. Beckner is interested, isn't she? Maybe.
I'm gonna get out of the way of this one.
Okay, well, we'll wait on that, we'll call that.
All right, so there's nothing,
So, Vicky, how about we meet this month and then go over our needs when we meet, and then that's something we can bring back in May along with the Parks and Rec info?
Good.
We also have our June meeting is when we do our election of officers, we could probably discuss that at that time also. To give people time to think about it.
June for sure.
we have item 14, report from the EIC committee.
Well, like Bill said, the grants were given out, that's the report.
Grants are out. Off the list.
Do you know who they went to?
They went to, the property next to the Cava Cafe, the house there that's to the, east, or to the west of that. They went to the theater. It went to, Do It Best Hardware for their facade. It went to the dairy on Dwight Street. It went to the old, home improvement yard on Michigan Street there, the old lumber yard, that one. And the old Chamber of Commerce and the embroidery shop that's right next to that. So that's where the grants went.
No, that was the old Chamber of Commerce. Thank you.
And I would just like to make a comment to this board that, I was impressed that the EIC came up with kind of thinking outside the box. Because as you recall, the maximum on those grants was $50,000, it's funded by the township. It's a reimbursement grant where they have to do the work, and then they come in and prove their receipts and show those, and then they get the money. Since we had 6 applicants, the EIC came up with the idea of giving each member 86%, which brought it in at $49,880 of the $50,000. So I thought that was, kind of a cool way to give everybody some money, as opposed to, having to score it and maybe cut somebody off. As I mentioned this morning, I know in times when we've applied for grants and you either get it or you get turned down. There's no middle ground. Some of the grants we've applied for, if we'd have got 80% of the money we'd applied for, I think we'd have been happy and could have done some of the projects we were looking at. So
That's cool.
I my kudos to the EIC for kind of thinking outside the box and coming up with that idea to give all 6 applicants some money. So,
Moving on to item 15, comments from the planning commission members. I will start probably, Mr. Taggart, and work this way.
Okay. Recently I attended the Michigan Association of Planners training session in Frankenmuth, making good decisions together. Christine also attended that along with Jamie McGuire. And I have to say that that was very good training, so good that I talked to Amy Grant afterwards also. And I talked with Nicole about arranging that session to be brought here as one of our training sessions. It's beneficial for not just planning commission, but for all boards working together. So we've been working on that. Well, I should say Nicole's now working on that. I would like to say also that, since the comment was talked about, doing our homework from the MNRGF grant, that I would, suggest that maybe we talk to Mr. John Mays or Lindsay or Mr. Lord at the DNR and have them come here and do a training session on that grant for us. There's no better place to get it than from the source. So I've talked to Mr. Mays in the past. They are willing to come to us, and I think that's something that we may want to reach out and do. There's been a lot of talk about that. That would be a decision of this board if we should reach out and do that. I think it would be beneficial, because there's been a lot of talk about that grant. So, and if they're willing to do it, it's free training. So, the other thing that I wanted to ask about, we're getting a lot of requests for poultry, chicken coops and duck fencing and all of those type things. And I'm wondering if we couldn't possibly change that to administrative approval. We can have administrative approve a house, but we can't have them approve a chicken coop. It just doesn't make sense to me in that regards. So, it's under a special use permit, site plan review. So, I was just wondering if we shouldn't be thinking about changing that and giving that an administrative approval.
I was gonna ask the same thing. I feel like I'm perfectly capable to find out how many chickens, make sure they don't have a rooster where they're gonna store their food. And, you know.
We wouldn't have to waste time from like Mr. Spencer to come in and plead a case for chickens.
So we would need to do an ordinance revision, because it says in the ordinance it has to go to the planning commission.
Well, it sounds like my subcommittee has some work to do, so we will work on that. And I'd like to know a consensus from this about bringing in the DNR to see if we can do that.
Yes, absolutely, wonderful idea.
That was gonna be my comment.
Well, I've already talked with them in the past, and they are willing to come and do that. So we just got, it would just be arrangement of time, so. It was quite a while ago I talked to them. But that's it, that's all I got.
Mr. Schultz. Ms. Hopcroft.
I'm going to a housing seminar in Gaylord on Thursday, and they still have openings as of this morning. I sent that over to Nicole in case anybody's interested. It's CEDAM to develop a housing plan for Michigan and Moore Region B. It's at Treetops, and it sounds really interesting.
I'll have to forward it out to everyone tomorrow. I was not in office today,
Oh, okay.
so I apologize.
That was the Mishta train, the one that they're putting on.
No, Josh sent it out. It's CEDAM, and it's, I didn't notice it was going to be a good chance. I'll know more after Thursday.
That's it. Mr. Palmer?
Yeah, there's, we've been a lot of talk about grants and grant writing and that sort of thing here recently. I think, you gotta remember that we have to have a project before we go after a grant. You don't just go out and write a grant and then if you get the money, then say, okay, this is what we're gonna use it for. We have the township has received, several different times, MNRTF grants. The latest one was, $300,000 for phase 3 of our bike path, which I'm on the IEP committee, and, we were quite involved with that MNRTF grant. The township in the past, so to go back what I said, you have to have a project first. Most of our projects are overseen by our engineering firm, whether it be Rowe or Beckett Rader. And those companies all have professional grant writing staff. So they're very well versed in how to write the grants that we need for the project that we're doing. So it isn't like, we're in desperate need of grant writers. Now, having said that, having someone on our staff or working in our committees or somewhere that does have grant writing experience and knowledge certainly would be helpful, especially for some of the, to keep on top of some of the smaller grants, to know for various things going on in our township. But in the past, our experience has been we have a project that we want to do, and then we, with our engineers, because you have to remember that the engineers want to get paid to do the project. So they have incentive to get us the grant to be able to do the project. It's kind of a hand-in-hand procedure there. So, and like I said, they have professionals at grant writing departments that handle those things. So, that's what we've done in the past. I think that's probably what we'll be doing in the future. Right now, we've got an application for a grant for our beach park, do some major renovations down there. We just approved at the last board meeting, the chamber is applying for a grant to upgrade the electrical service at the beach park. So that they can, when they have the music and things down there, that they don't short circuit all the electric down. I guess it's all pretty old and in bad shape, our electric service down there. So that was a grant that the Chamber of Commerce has applied for on our behalf, and we approved that at the last meeting. As I'm sure everybody knows, I'm the new supervisor here in Oscoda Township. So this may be my last planning commission meeting. Our next board meeting is the 24th. On the 17th, we're having a special board meeting to make an appointment for the open trustee position. And I'm hoping that at the 24th, April 24th, regular board meeting that we have, I want to talk about filling some of the committee positions. So we include the new trustee on the board, to give everybody an opportunity to participate in some of our boards which have board representation on that. The planning commission is one of them, the EIC and some others. So I think we'll be making some changes there. I was sure that the supervisor couldn't be on the planning commission, but I was informed by our township attorney that I could be. But I don't think it would be, I don't think it would be appropriate. She even said we could have two, and that certainly to me wouldn't be appropriate. But I think it's important that all the board members, township trustee board members, participate in some of these boards and committees, and have a diversification of board members, so you don't just have one or two that are in all the boards that we have. So that's all I have.
Okay.
And last but not least, the MNRTF grant process. 2 months ago, I started reading and reviewing our Parks and Rec plan, and in the back of it, you can see a history of grants that were awarded to the township and what the projects were for. And that piqued my interest into looking further down the road to have a shelf-ready project. That's why I inquired about if there's a committee for the Parks and Rec, and if there wasn't, could we start one? If there is, can we revitalize it? But make sure, like Ms. Hopcroft said, we are ready to go when the time comes for a grant. I would rather have grant money than township money for our projects. And that was my interest. Ms. Follette, you are on deck.
So I was just gonna talk about some training, Mr. Tazzer touched on it a little bit, but I have been in contact with Michigan Association of Planning, to not only bring making good decisions together, here to the township, but also I wanna bring in a ZBA course. I haven't done one of those yet, and I think it would be really beneficial for not only my ZBA members, but, the surrounding area. So I am gonna email out to, within like a 50-mile radius and invite people to come to it. It would be for a cost, but it would be lower than what they would pay if they did it directly through MAP. Same with making good decisions together. So that timeline, we're looking at sometime in June is when I want to do both courses. I don't wanna do them on the same day, but I'm looking at that, and then we've talked about what we wanna kind of schedule for fall. We don't have those plans, nothing solid yet, but we will be bringing another session of some sort, to the pavilion in the fall. So it's really good for all of our members, it's a little more convenient, and, all the townships around us are smaller, and some of them don't have the budget to send their people to training. So offering it at a lower cost is beneficial to us and to them. So keep your eyes open, cause I will eventually have a flyer, and I'll email it out to everybody when I have a date set.
Thank you.
That's all I have tonight.
Ms. Pine, do you have anything?
I do not.
On that note, motion to adjourn.
Well,